Hola, hola, ¿cómo están? How are you? How's everybody doing? Welcome to LaLiga Insiders. It's Sweet 16 for La Liga. We're going to head into the 16th match day of the season, and alongside Rodrigo Faez and Gustavo Hoffman, we're going to dive into the Liga's hottest topics. One of the biggest games of the season coming up, maybe one that can prove the resurgence of Atletico, and Real Madrid travel to La Cerámica to face a team that has not lost but one home game this season. An extra time. Hello, we're going to grab onto our yellow and red cards and we're going to talk about Mateu Laos. We are talking about one of the biggest games of the season. Definitely one can prove the resurgence of Atletico de Madrid, as Cholo Simeone's side are looking better than they have in the past. But again, they're facing a tough test against Barcelona. With Rodrigo and Gustavo, we're going to talk right about that. At the Metropolitano this Sunday, the biggest game we're probably going to see this match day, not probably, but surely going to see this match day. Maybe one of the best games so far this season as well. Gustavo, Barcelona coming on the back of that extra time win against Mino's Intercity in La Copa. How are you?
Hello, Fernando. How are you? I'm fine, thank you. Hello, Rodrigo. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. It's a pleasure to be here in the La Liga Insiders. Well, Barcelona won't have Robert Lewandowski. It's a big loss. At least we expect that Robert Lewandowski won't play, because against Espanyol we also didn't expect that he would play. But now we, as the Tribunal Administrativo Deportivo here in Spain has confirmed, 3-match ban for Lewandowski, so he won't play against Atletico de Madrid. It's a big loss for Barcelona. Against Intercity, we saw a Barcelona team that couldn't make the chance that they created in 2 goals. And against Atletico de Madrid, I don't know. I really don't expect always too much from Atleti. We know that Atleti is gonna be competitive. We know that Atleti is gonna be a hard team, but I think that they have too many problems in the offense. And now Barcelona will also have some problems in the offense without Lewandowski. Rafinha isn't still playing so well. He loses so many chances. He scored against Intercity, but he's still having some hard times here in Spain, in Barcelona, to score goals. And Barcelona really need goals. Let's see how Ansu Fati goes to this match after the goal he scored against Intercity in their overtime.
Let's stick with that game against Intercity, Rodri, as Xavi only played one of the 11 starters from the draw against Espanyol. That was Jordi Alba. And Jordi Alba ended up playing the whole 120 minutes of the match against Intercity. Knowing that Robert Lewandowski will not play, we can start piecing together between those that played against Espanyol and the ones that started against Intercity a lineup for the upcoming matchup against Atletico de Madrid. But without Lewandowski, regardless of who is there, it's a matter of not only creating the opportunities, but as Xavi said after the match against Intercity, it's about putting it in the back of the net.
This is very strange, because once the game against Intercity was over, I was watching Xavi's press conference, and he was like, yeah, Barca played well, but we failed in the boxes. When you attack and you create chances, you don't score, and when you are at the back, you concede so many goals against a so inferior team that, I didn't really understand the way Barca played, and I didn't understand even those Xavi words, because I think that Barcelona, as a side, as a team, they have to win, 10 out of 10 times in 90 minutes against Intercity. And I don't really understand why all the people at the front, they didn't score the goals. And I don't really mind if Lewandowski was at his home or whatever. They have quality enough, and you have strikers enough to score more goals against Intercity. And I understand that in these dates, maybe, there are Christmas dates, and maybe all the players are not focused 100% on they have to be focused on, but Barca failed, and this is the second game in a row that they failed, because when they were winning against Espanyol in the Barcelona derby, Madrid, they failed again in the second half, and they conceded one goal, so they lost 2 points, and they concede that leader, the number one of the table, and they share it with Real Madrid. So that's why I don't really understand why Barcelona is struggling now this beginning of 2023, and I understand that the game against Atletico Madrid is going to be key for Xavi and key for the team to show if this team is back as we saw Barcelona before in this tournament, or if they're struggling 100% and they have any kind of little crisis at the beginning of this year.
Let's see what Atletico de Madrid has to offer as well. They've also booked their ticket to the round of 16 at the Copa del Rey, having beaten Real Oviedo at the Carlos Tartiere with a 2-goal performance, or 2-0 win, and a goal performance by Antoine Griezmann. But again, to your point at the beginning, Gustavo, it's who we see. It's which Atletico are we going to see this time around? Are we going to be let believe that Atletico are finally back because they're getting results against small teams from Copa del Rey action?
Yeah, I don't think that Atleti is back because we don't see Atletico de Madrid playing so well. We don't see Atletico de Madrid even being so strong in the defense as it was in the past, as it was 2 years ago when they won La Liga. It will probably be a line of 5 defenders, 3 midfielders, two attackers with Griezmann. We can really expect something else from Griezmann because he is playing so well even before the World Cup, even when everything was happening between Barcelona and Atletico de Madrid about the deal involving Griezmann. But since the little bit before the World Cup, Griezmann was playing so well. He made a very good World Cup, and now for me he's the main guy in Atletico de Madrid. We can expect something else from him, but I really don't see when I go to Atletico de Madrid matches that I don't expect anything from the team. We know that it's gonna be, as I said, a competitive team, but it seems for me that Simeone can get more from the players. João Felix isn't happy. The Brazilian players who've already left weren't happy also. So I don't see this Atletico de Madrid team playing well, being strong against the strongest teams in Europe. They failed in Champions League. They didn't even qualify for the Europa League. So let's see. But I really don't expect too many things from this team of Atletico de Madrid.
It's 11 points, the distance that separates Atletico de Madrid with the leaders of La Liga. One of those leaders being Barcelona. We know how Cholo Simeone over the 11 seasons that he's been at the helm of Atletico de Madrid approaches these types of games. He lets the opponent have control and maybe even not only possession of the ball, but also control of the game, and lets them carry on and attack them to try to take advantage of the space provided. If we can imagine that sort of game, João Felix should be in the starting lineup. Now, with the current situation with João Felix, in that context, can we imagine him even playing a minute in this game?
Well, if you're going to play like that, Fernando, I wouldn't start with João Felix. I would tell him that, okay, you're going to wait for your chance in the second half, and I want you to be fit enough for the second 45 minutes. If you're going to play like that, but if you're going to play like, for example, we saw Atletico Madrid in Asturias, or as you see Atletico Madrid against Elche, okay, take João Felix and be the partner in crime with Antoine Griezmann and Morata. But depends at the end of the way they're gonna play. I remember, the very beginning of this year, of this season, when we were at the Coliseum at Getafe, and Atletico Madrid won, I think it was 0-2 to Getafe, and we said, okay, Atleti is back.
That was the first game of the season.
That horrible. Yeah. That's why, and they played like 2-3 games like now, like this 2023 beginning. And we said the same, like, okay, Atletico Madrid is back, but every time we say the same, it's like when they fail. So that's why, I don't really know what Atletico Madrid we will see against Barcelona. The normal thing will be, okay, I'm going to leave you the ball, the possession, and the control of the game, as you mentioned before, Fernando, but we don't really know what will happen. And finally, if you're playing like that, take Joao Felix in the second half and don't waste 45 minutes of one of the top quality players that you have in the squad, because he's going to be useless and he's going to be fed up with the way Atletico Madrid is going to play in that beginning of the game. So let's see what will happen on Sunday night. We'll be there to tell you all, but it's going to be ideal game to see if Atletico Madrid is back at their top form, or what we saw in these past 2 games is just, you know, an oasis in between the whole crisis.
Barcelona have only won one of their last 5 visits to the Metropolitano, and Sunday's game will definitely catch the attention of everyone around the football world. Now let's move to Atletico's main rival, the city rivals, Real Madrid. They have also booked their ticket to the round of 16 in Copa del Rey, and will be playing after a 1-0 win over Cacereño with a fantastic Rodrigo goal. They will be playing this Saturday early on against Villarreal at the Nuevo La Cerámica. Gustavo, Carlo Ancelotti blamed the conditions of the pitch for the poor performance of his team, but this is again another game that serves as evidence to show us that Real Madrid's second line of players, those that are seldom used, rarely come and take advantage of the opportunity.
Yes, for sure, especially Rodrigo. Rodrigo, I always say that Real Madrid nowadays, they have like 13 starters, because when we see Rudiger also, Rudiger should be a starter, but you have Militão, you have Alaba, you have Mendy, you have Carvajal, you have 4 plays for 5 players. And Rodrigo in the offense, you can sack Valverde, for example, but he can also play in the midfield. But you won't change your midfield with Tchouaméni, Modric, and Kroos, who turned 33 years old yesterday. So I think that Real Madrid nowadays, they have 13 starters and maybe 14 when we look to Camavinga also. But I think that Rodrigo and Rudiger are ahead Camavinga when we talk about the reserve players and the starters. About Rodrigo, he's always playing so well, but it's fun because when we say that the second line in the Real Madrid, they always make some good matches, except Hazard. Hazard again made a very poor match. 68 minutes, began the match, was a starter, no shots, only 24 touches in the ball. So again, we saw a Hazard, a player who was awful in the match, awful in the pitch that wasn't so good also. But I don't think that the critics that Carlo Ancelotti made was so fair, because you have to understand the reality of your opponent. You have to understand the reality of a Copa. We're not talking about Champions League. We're not talking about La Liga. We're talking about Copa del Rey, where some very weak teams, some small teams can play against giants like Madrid, like Barcelona, like Atletico. So you have to understand the reality of your opponent. You can blame maybe the Spanish Federation for the pitch condition. You can blame the Spanish Federation to give some more money for these clubs, but you can't blame the opponent. You can't blame the other club. Well, but Rodrigo is really playing so well. I think that we can't. It's hard to think an 11 starter of Real Madrid without Rodrigo, because he's so decisive. He score so many goals against the great teams also. So Rodrigo is really having a good season, a terrible season.
As we talk about Real Madrid now, let's talk about their opponents on Saturday. Villarreal, for the second time this season, will lose an integral part of their squad. First, they lost Unai Emery to Premier League, and now they're losing Jero Rulli, their starting goalkeeper in La Liga, to Ajax. Rodri, this is a team still trying to find themselves from having to change pieces in the middle of the season. The backup for Jero Rulli has been Pepe Reina, the veteran, who's looking to start the game this Saturday.
And he will, I think, as we were informed by our sources at Villarreal, It's not an easy season for Villarreal because I think this is the first time in which Villarreal in so many years that they have to face this kind of situation. You got a coach you've been betting for in the past 3 years. I remember when Newcastle came to Spain to try to negotiate with Unai Emery and Villarreal said no. We have our coach and his name is Unai Emery, so we're not gonna let him go. And finally, in the second try, now Unai Emery went away to Premier League to coach Aston Villa. So this is the first time that this happens to Fernando Roch's team. So that's why it's kind of strange for them. And then once Quique Setién came in, I think the team struggled a little bit because it's a completely different way to coach in between Unai Emery and Quique Setién. Quique Setién is more laid back. He won the ball control, the ball possession, but in any daily training session, he's not that physically talking like, for example, Unai Emery. So that's why maybe it cost a little bit to the players to get adapted to new coach Quique Setién, but now they are doing quite better than at the beginning. And now that you are a little bit adapted, you lose your main goalkeeper, Jero Rulli, who is going to where you said, Fernando. This is kind of strange again. I mean, Jero Rulli is not the kind of goalie that has been really safe 100% in all the single games that Villarreal has played. But at the end, he's very quick, he's very fast, in the goal. So that's why they're gonna miss him in some way. He was a starter for the UEFA Europe League that they won 2 years ago. So that's why they're gonna miss him a little bit.
Jero Rulli became an idol at Villarreal as he scored the penalty that won the game for them against Manchester United. That game on Saturday, Real Madrid visiting the new Estadio La Cerámica, renovated stadium for Villarreal, and a great opportunity as well for Quique Setién to put his name back where it should belong as one of the good coaches in La Liga after his experience at Barcelona. Maybe this game will provide something for him as well to gain some reputation back after the fiasco that leading Barcelona became for him and his career. Now to my favorite section. This segment is called LaLiga Insiders because we go inside La Liga with our insiders. We're going to start with Gustavo Hoffman. Gustavo, just heard that Endrick has been taken off Brazil's under-20 list for the upcoming South American Championship. Just a side note to throw us into the main topic. Endrick was a discovery of one of the most important, but yes, least known pieces in the structure at Real Madrid. Who is Juni Calafat?
Yes, that's the man behind everything that is happening in Madrid with Brazil, with the Brazilian youngest stars. Well, that's a special piece that we've written, me, Rodrigo, and Alex Kirkland, that it's in ESPN.com. Juni Calafat is the chief scout of Real Madrid. And he's the master, he's the man, the mind behind everything that is happening with Brazil. So Juni Calafat arrived in Madrid, in Real Madrid, in 2014, just a little bit after Casemiro's arrival. So when Madrid, he had already some contacts with Ronaldo Fenômeno, with Kaká. He was born in Madrid but was raised in São Paulo. His mother is Brazilian, so he's fluent in Portuguese, and this is very important for him because the way he works is to get a very strong relation with the families of the players. So for Endrick, for example, he travels so many times to visit the family, to meet the parents, to know how they are. With Vinicius and Rodrigo, he made the same thing with Rodrigo, for example. Juni Calafat, the Madrid and Santos, finalized the deal when Rodrigo was almost 17. And during the last year that Rodrigo played with Santos, Juni Calafat used to travel so many times to Brazil to go to visit Rodrigo. He was at Rodrigo's 18th birthday. With Vinicius, he also made so many trips to Brazil. So the way he works is to get really close to the families, to know the mothers, the fathers, and also, of course, the players. And nowadays, Rodrigo can also talk about it because Juni Calafat is one of three persons in Madrid who run the football in the club. You have Jose Angel, the football director. You have Florentino Perez, and you have Juni Calafat, who is the chief scout, but he's very, very close to Florentino and to the Brazilian players, and also some other players, like, for example, Federico Valverde. Federico Valverde was another player who Juni Calafat brought to Madrid.
Well, not only a Brazilian connection there, but a South American connection as Uruguayan. Federico Valverde is definitely one of the biggest stars to come up in the Real Madrid transfer markets in the past 5 years. Rodrigo, we're going to stick around with Real Madrid. We're going to stick around with the transfer topic as well. I don't know if it's a topic for conversation, but he's 33 years old. His contract is about to run out at the end of the year, and there's not been right now, at least, any positive news with regards to Toni Kroos. Is he going to stay? Is he going to leave?
The breaking news is that there are no news, Fernando, and I wanna.
Well, maybe that's
keep
good
this
news
in
then
mind
for
about-
Real Madrid fans. If there's no news, it's good news.
I do believe so. I do believe so because we've been reporting on ESPN and here on LaLiga Insiders for the past maybe 3-4 months that, as you mentioned before, Toni Kroos is over with Real Madrid by the end of this season. But the thing is that he wanted to think about Real Madrid project, and he wants to be imagine himself in next season Real Madrid. So that's why he's waiting a little bit more, and he around February or even March he will make his announcement on his future. Maybe he will stay or maybe he will retire as a footballist here in Madrid. We don't really know. It's a very private, a very personal decision that only Toni Kroos knows. So that's why when we see or we hear reports of Toni Kroos' future, it's like, I'm not gonna laugh at that because I gotta respect some other media informations. But I was told even this morning that Toni Kroos still doesn't really know what will happen to him because he's the only one who's gonna take this decision, and he again will wait till February or even March to make a final word on his future. But first of all, because he wants to know what will be Real Madrid project, and secondly, he wants to imagine himself and he wants to know how can he help Real Madrid in the next season. We remember that for over 30 players, Real Madrid always renew for only one season, so that's why it's not going to be a deal in between Real Madrid and the player. But the final word, it has to be up to Toni Kroos, and he's going to be waiting a little bit more to say something by February or March about his future.
Well, sticking around with Real Madrid and with the Brazilian topic as well, Vinicius last time around when they were playing at Valladolid denounced the fact that he was the victim of racist attacks once more in a La Liga stadium, mentioning that La Liga does nothing to fight racism, as they so say. Javier Tebas, the president of La Liga, came back with a tweet stating that Vinicius should not be so unfair with La Liga, as they actually are fighting racism, and then they are at pretty much his disposal if he needs to talk to La Liga about the topic. Gustavo, how is Vinicius feeling at the moment about this?
Yes, sources have told me that Vinicius feels that, like, if La Liga doesn't really act against the racists, it is because they agree with them. It's the feeling that Vinicius has, sources have told me, because like Vinicius wrote, and after that Javier Tebas responded to him. Like, Javier Tebas is more worried about La Liga image than really the racists. So for Vinicius and the people around Vinicius who work with Vinicius, they think that La Liga should act against the racists, not just say that we've already talked to the government, we already talked to the entities that should punish these people. No, Vinicius and the people around Vinicius think that La Liga should really act against players, fans, and clubs. Because in Brazil, it happens when you have some racism case in a match. the Brazilian Federation, they can act against the club, they can act against the fan, they can act against a tournament or anything else. So people with Vinicius think that La Liga should act against these racist people that were in Valladolid, that were so many other stadiums. Also, it is not a problem only in Spain; it's a problem in the whole world. But Vinicius really feels that La Liga is agreeing with the racists because they don't really act against them. That's what Vinicius and the people around him expected for the next case, that La Liga really punish these people or the clubs or the way that La Liga can act.
And lastly, Rodri, when we think about Atletico de Madrid, we think of a team that has 23 goals scored so far in 15 matches. That's the least amount of goals scored at that stage of the competition in the last 3 seasons. And we hear that Borja Iglesias is of interest. Now, is he of interest because they need to score goals, or is he of interest because they need to replace a player that is soon to depart?
Well, our information is that in case João Felix leaves Atletico de Madrid, which is something that is not clear 100% at this moment, Borja Iglesias is the ideal guy that Simeone is in love with. Not only for how he plays or how he makes the rest of his teammates play, but also for the dressing room, because Simeone knows perfectly how Borja Iglesias is outside the pitch. He really likes the way he is personally talking, and he's in love with him, and he thinks he could be something really, or someone really positive for Atletico Madrid dressing room. But to see Borja Iglesias playing for Atletico Madrid, it will cost a little bit. First of all, because you have to take João Felix out of Atletico Madrid, and as we reported on Monday, there are no offers for João Felix at this moment. No one will pay those 100 million euros that Atletico Madrid are asking for the Portuguese jewel. The plan B for Atletico Madrid and João Felix is maybe thinking about a loan with a buy clause at the end of the season. There could be something that maybe Arsenal or even Man United could agree with, but there is nothing 100% safe now at the moment. And if finally João Felix leaves Atletico Madrid, the ideal guy that Simeone would like to have is Borja Iglesias, who is a really expensive striker, because if Atletico Madrid wants Borja Iglesias, they will have to pay around 35 million euros, and this is not easy now at this moment of the season for Atletico Madrid. But let's see what will happen, because January is going to be a long month for Borja Iglesias, for Betis, and for Atletico de Madrid and João Felix.
Rodrigo, it's a long month for everyone. Everybody in the world feels a steep climb in the month of January, and the winter transfer window will become one of those that also makes us feel like January is the longest month of the year. We talked about this earlier on, Gustavo. Rodrigo scoring the goal against Cacereño, fantastic individual play. How do you take a player like that out of the starting 11 when you know he's always providing you with goals and a spark when he comes off the bench? Does Ancelotti not see him capable of starting or applying that spark since the very first minute of a match? How does he see himself as a substitute?
Actually, he doesn't see himself as a substitute. He sees himself as a starter. The feeling that with Rodrigo and the people also around Rodrigo is that Madrid has more than 11 starters, and that Rodrigo, that you can't think 11 starters in Madrid without Rodrigo. He's really happy in Madrid. He's really happy with Ancelotti. He's really happy with his role in the team. But of course, and I talk to Rodrigo sometimes, Rodrigo doesn't like to start a match in the bench. But he really sees himself as a starter because he's always playing, he's scoring so many goals, and in the most important matches, he usually starts. The problem is that when we talk about a whole squad, a full squad for Carlo Ancelotti, actually the 11 players that normally the Italian coach uses is without Rodrigo. But for him, he really sees himself as a starter, and he's very, very happy in the club, and he understands that he's gonna have too many more minutes in the next match. He's playing so well this season. Let's see what happens.
Time will come for Rodrigo. His talent is definitely out there, and to prove that talent, the goal against Cacereño was fantastic. The previous La Liga match for Real Madrid was against Real Valladolid. That matchup not only pitted the teams together, one against each other, not only pitted Florentino against his former striker Ronaldo in the president's box, but it also showed us what a kid from Valladolid's cantera, from their academy, can bring. He was facing Vinicius in that match. It's only 18 years old, and a lot of people in Europe are talking about it. Ivan Fresneda was responsible for a lot of the things that Vinicius could not do in that match. Who's talking about him? Who's interested
100%.
about Fresneda, and can he leave?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna leave. Imagine how sure I am that I think in the next week, maybe in 2 weeks at far, he will leave Real Valladolid. We have to remember and contextualize that Ivan Fresneda was born and raised in Real Madrid Academy, and finally he left to Real Valladolid in a project that he see himself, more in the mid-long term to develop himself as a football professional player. But the thing is that his evolution has been so fast and so quick that finally now he's in the spotlight for so many big teams around Europe, and teams from Italy, even from Spain, teams from France, and mostly from the Premier League. And on the Premier League, there is one team that is very, very interested on him for the past 2 months, and that's why they have the advantage over the rest of the teams that are interested on Ivan Fresneda. He's only 18 years old and he's about to sign for Newcastle United. He really likes the way Newcastle approached to him in the past 2 months, and he really likes the way that Newcastle wants him for the future, to grow and develop himself as a football player on the elite of the world football. And that's why Newcastle maybe has a little bit of advantage if you compare those options that Newcastle have to, for example, other options from even the Premier League or even from Spain. There are some rumors in the past days here in Spain, right after the game in between Valladolid and Real Madrid, that Real Madrid were monitoring his evolution. It was all just monitoring because Real Madrid didn't have any kind of approach to Ivan Fresneda. So that's why I think Ivan Fresneda is going to sign for Newcastle United or any Premier League club in the next 2 weeks for around 15 million euros, which is half of the clause, or the release clause, that Valladolid put on the contract when they renewed him the past summer. So let's see what happens in a couple of weeks, but it looks like Ivan Fresneda will have to learn a little bit of English.
I gotta tell you though, I'm gonna give you free advice if you're a sports director around any team in Europe. If 15 million euros is what's going to pay to get Ivan Fresneda in your club, you're getting a bargain, because the kid is real. He's got personality and he's extremely good on both ends of the pitch. So here's my free advice to any sports director out there. Go take advantage of this, not only the advice, but the fact that he's being put at a cheap price tag. Let's go to extra time now. And when we dive into extra time, we're going to bring in a topic that's been hot on the discussion tables lately. The refereeing of Mateu Laos, responsible for 33 yellow cards in his last 2 officiated games. One in La Liga in that Catalan derby, and then the other infamous quarterfinal between the Netherlands and Argentina in the World Cup. 33 yellow cards in his last 2 games. What happens in the next game he officiates in Linares against Sevilla in Copa del Rey? Nothing, 0, nada, no cards except for 2 for Jorge Sampaoli. Did Mateu Laos for yellow cards at home, Rodri? What happened to him? Was he not feeling well?
I don't really know. I talked to my Sevilla sources this morning, and they were amazed by the way Mateu Laos sent off Sampaoli, because they understand that Sampaoli said nothing, and it looks like when Mateu Laoz has that fame of being very close to the players and a very dialogue referee, it looks like now no one can say him anything. Like he's kind of nervous or whatever that he's gonna show you a yellow card or even a red card for just saying nothing. So that's why those my guys, those sources from Sevilla explained to me this morning. I don't really know what happens. Maybe the New Year's Eve didn't treat him so well, but something happens because he's not like that.
Well, he's 45 years old. He's close to being 46, and we know how the Comité Técnico de Árbitros works in Spain. After 45 years old, you get evaluated year by year. So this will be his turn to be evaluated. Will he stick around? Are we going to have the Mateu Laoz live show for the next season, Gustavo?
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. Well, actually, nowadays, I think that Mateu Laoz has become a giant character, and this character is bigger than the referee. He seems, for me, he seems a little bit lost on the pitch, because the way he acts, the way he works on the pitch, the way he talks to the players, to the coach, the way he gave the red card to Sampaoli, the character nowadays is bigger than the referee, and this is not good for him and not good for everyone on the pitch.
It definitely will not be good for anybody that sees him on the sheet prior to the game, because now everybody's going to think, I'm going to get a yellow card given to me for nothing, and that is contravenes the interest of a good football match and the flow of a good football match. Good news for those teams in La Liga. Mateu Laoz will not be refereeing any match for the upcoming match day 16. Again, the best game this match day on Sunday on ESPN Plus and ESPN Deportes is Atletico de Madrid and Barcelona. And we have visited that game and many other topics with our insiders, Rodrigo Fáez and Gustavo Hoffman. Guys, thank you so much. And to you watching at home or wherever you are, we'll see you next time.